For clarity's sake, I need to make maybe at least one video. It feels like I need to make 100 about why I would never circulate um, any kind of Nazi or swastika paraphernalia or offensive imagery. Um, a little bit about me. I, as a kid, was obsessed with the Diary of Anne Frank. I had real Holocaust survivors come speak at my school. I um, have been to a concentration camp. I went to Dachau when I was, I think, 19. Um, I've gone out of my way to see exceptional Holocaust related memorial. I have dated an Israeli. I have dated numerous Jewish people who have explained to me things. One of my best friends was a Hebrew teacher who was a member of the IDF. My best teacher was in Israel when she let me house sit for her because she appreciated my 38-page paper on Maurice Blanchot's book, The Writing of the Disaster, about the Holocaust, which I miraculously typed up because it might be the best thing I wrote, but I wrote it when I was 20. So she had been directly impacted by the Holocaust. Her family member, I believe it was her grandmother, passed away or in the Holocaust. She was my best teacher, and she was also exceptionally knowledgeable. Her name is Edith Dobbs Feinstein. Look her up. She's a brilliant person who was super influential in my life. In terms of Jewish friends, let's just Jewish name drop. Barry Goldberg, producer of Death Row Records, Snoop Dogg, and Marilyn Manson. I've shared a bed with him. We never slept together, but I was madly enraptured by his brilliance and learned a lot from him. I was very proud to walk down the street with him. I proposed to him immediately. He was so magnificent to me and still is. My inspirational sort of long distance mentor, Keith Fink, the attorney, has spoken to me numerous times. He let me know when he recently visited Auschwitz via email because he knows that's important to me. Um, I was in a brief liaison with Christian Gunther, very powerful and brilliant man when I was 30 in 2007. And he, of course, influenced me immensely. My Hebrew teacher friend, Eva Watler, is a very dynamic and powerful activist. And she did tell me about her work with the IDF. My friend, the music producer, or my friend with benefits, the music producer, Shai Raviv, or Shai Raviv, now I found out his real name on Wikipedia is Shai Rabinovitz. Just like this miraculous, transcendent, incredible music producer who I slept with from 2007 to 2010 and met in Beverly Hills, got the guts to speak about him. He told me he was famous in Israel. I've tried to research about him. I've really become a fan of his beautiful art since I no longer been as in touch. I think the last I heard from him was in 2014 when he started a serious relationship. It wasn't just like casual. He would tell me things like tell me what website to check for Jewish spirituality. I would try to ask him things. He was kind of a quiet guy. But I'm a part of that. And I adore him like a brother. I loved him in such a spiritual, transcendent way. It was always hard to become his lover, but he was pretty consistent and way cool and super respectful. And no one can ever take that away from me. You can accuse me of being involved with creepy Northwest BS. Um, Stephen Schwartz, my really big time mentor, I called him yesterday. He answered the phone. He's alive. He's always in a rush. He's always so busy. He's this most boisterous and dramatic prosecutor, then defense attorney. His family's from Chicago. He has a blustery East Coast thing too, but he's very LA. He let me sit in on his baseball bat not guilty by reason of insanity case when I was trying to learn and understand his process in law, essentially learn from him or become his assistant. And I was his assistant. I helped him piece together that case, and I learned a lot from his organizational skills and his legal philosophy about violent crime, or where it comes from, or his feelings about humanity and human nature. He's a very deep and philosophical person, much like a father. And rest in peace, his beautiful son, whom I never met. I wish I had. Beautiful son passed away a couple of years ago, and I wasn't able to get down to LA to support him in his time of need. So I'm very pleased he's alive and well. Plan to talk to him soon. Who else am I? Oh my God, it's just like klezmer music. Um, my philosophy class. I was a philosophy major. I studied specifically 20th century continental philosophy before the war, after the war. There's just this. I read uh, the Adolf Eichmann book about the Mossad apprehending the Nazi war criminals. I've studied international law. I've ridden a train through Nuremberg and woken up in a night terror, feeling the resonance of it, to write a poem on the train about how I felt in Nuremberg. I've seen Berlin, and I didn't like Berlin. I learned German because of I taught myself German because of my painful resonance about my grandfather fighting in World War II and everything that means and represents, and every way I'm immensely, inordinately proud of him for helping defeat the Nazis. I have never not been anti-racist. I mean, I'm anti-racist to the core and anti-Nazi to the core. And I'm, as a free speech advocate and an artist and a creative person, I'm deeply aware of how powerful symbols injure and how deeply offensive they are. I myself, when I saw the shocking imagery released by Binksy online, felt that it was an error for her to release it. It was predatory on disabled people who are ignorant of the impact, but that if I could find a way for any good to come out of it, out of the sickening horror of it, we could begin to uncover the depths of radicalization and find paths towards de-radicalizing people with white supremacist or neo-Nazi beliefs. I spoke at City Council and Multnomah County Commissioners more than anyone I know about Mark Kruger. Maybe Lone Vet, I don't know, but I had very many specific Mark Kruger theme. Mark Kruger was the infiltrator that the neo-Nazi magazine Stormfront bragged that they had infiltrated. This guy dressed up in swastika memorabilia and promoted mass murder. He never apologized for 20 years. He was completely embedded in the Portland police, completely defiant of any understanding of how deeply unacceptable and outrageous that was. And so the origin of evoking this catastrophic Holocaust trauma, as if we're not already traumatized by coronavirus or the riots and the murder of George Floyd, it was just absolutely too much for me. I was completely sickened, and I've spent hours and hours and hours trying to improve the Holocaust education and an awareness of atrocity, an awareness of offensiveness that I think our pop culture and media culture and Holocaust industries can have demeaning depictions or attempts to be comedic or attempts to use humor to diffuse the bomb, so to speak, of the horror of the atrocity. Recently, for the first time, really poured over the Holocaust Memorial that I always kind of avoided when I walked at Washington Park because it was so excruciating. So it was extremely hard on me, and of course I reached out to a Jewish friend. I even considered reaching out to a Jewish rabbi. What do I do? So for anybody on Twitter who is circulating the image of the brunette woman who may have Stockholm syndrome for her neo-Nazi ex-husband who beat her and concussed her and gave her severe brain injury, she may still be in danger from him. There are active protective orders against her neo-Nazi ex-husband. You're in it, like, activating the response that she should be further beat by people who are against neo-Nazis. I think you do have a misplaced target, and that how excruciating this operation has been to undercover where she's coming from or what her motivations are. It has been excruciating, like, for many people, and I think most of all for people who do understand the significance of that symbology and do feel it like a kick to the gut, like pure nausea, and do fear that this type of, I mean, God love the Shabbat house has suffered multiple fires, and the blessings that we send over Beth Israel, that they not be attacked, that the rioters pass over the synagogue. I want to thank the Portland riots for not attacking the synagogue, and I would ask the anti-fascists and anti-racist to be careful in watering down the meaning of what Nazi means. When you call somebody a Nazi because they're a black man joining the police force, I argue that you are disrespecting Holocaust survivors and you're disrespecting people impacted by anti-Semitism and racism. And if you continue to use that term flippantly and flagrantly, you will demean and misinform people who actually deserve a better education as to what that's all about. So if any way I can be of support, please, I guess, comment if you like to, or create your own content, or make your own vlogs discussing what you know or what you feel might have been deficient in your education about the Holocaust and what your suspicions are. Why? Is it perhaps that people are uncomfortable about talking about racism to begin with? And I realized through it all that in all my disgust and anger that there is neo-Nazism in East Portland, that purported anti-racists think violence to women will improve the situation, or that failing to have any due process or investigation of what are her motivations, like just that sheer vigilante mob outrage of surrounding and putting her on trial, like without any exploration of her psyche or soul, all of it is so disturbing. But that we would rethink our methods, do more, look at the databases that exist, look at, I don't know, the Anti-Defamation League or various ways we could understand. I recently am trying to pore over that, and I've done that in the past. I've researched what the FBI's response is to white supremacy and different failures they've had, as well as had been very interested in studying it on expo.se, the Swedish magazine that was a part of the operation of Stieg Larsson, who was facing bullets in his window from real neo-Nazis and had to evacuate to hotels to get away from them for his own safety. Studying real neo-Nazis is dangerous work. So I would suggest that the anti-racists of Portland get on top of their research and know what the terms that they're using mean, and know the people that are hurting. Because even if you're trying to promote anti-racism, if you're doing so in a way that is derogatory, offensive, triggering, or traumatizing to people of Jewish faith, Jewish background, Jewish family and friends, you may be alienating more people, and when it would be more advantageous if we built solidarity and community and unity towards eliminating the spectacle of all racisms, including racism to Jewish people, or hatred or genocide, or the implicit genocidal death threat that is existent in that symbol due to what that symbol came to represent, such that I would be happy if I never have to see that again. The symbol that was stolen from India in an attempt to exoticize an Asian motif by the Third Reich. So I knew that helped. I hope it helped. But I just want the Portland, Oregon community to know I've always been anti-racist. I denounce Mark Kruger. I denounce his failure to apologize. I believe that there is an inherent national security failure in Portland's failure to address the risk he posed, that he was an invitation to neo-Nazism to set foot in Portland, that his embedding in the police was an infiltration that was not dealt with like the cancer that it is, that the reason we have flourishing pockets of neo-Nazism in this region is because authorities in power are misusing their funds and they're not directly addressing this in the manner that they should. And I wrote these points to the National Department of Justice repeatedly, that there is a hate crime ongoing with the infliction of Mark Kruger on this community, that he is put there to make Jewish people feel excluded. This is, in a sense, a Jim Crow. It is an exclusion. It is hateful to homosexuals or anyone who would be persecuted under Nazi regime, especially and including disabled people. And I would ask, if I could ask anything of the anti-fascists or anti-racists, please stop bullying homosexuals, gays, Asian, disabled people, people with brain injuries. Stop bullying. You are doing what was a part of the Reich, which was extreme disability discrimination, including up into horrifying experimentation and murder. Nazi murder, Nazi medical experimentation that is widely viewed as the most inhumane and barbaric treatment of human beings that has ever been committed in the name of science. Oh, that's a lot to take in. So take it easy, everybody, and especially to people of Jewish background or faith. I want you to know that my anguish was too immense for me to come up with a statement until now, and this all debuted 12 days ago, and I'm sorry it took me this long. I composed a few tweets, but to me I found it too extremely traumatizing. And my goal is not to be arrogant and assume that my education, my prodigious reading skills, I've always been a huge reader, or my teachers, professors, the fact that I worked as what do you call it, like a museum guide at the Anne Frank exhibit when I was, maybe I think I was a freshman in high school, freshman or sophomore. Like I've been to the Holocaust Museum in DC. I saw Miroslav Balka's Holocaust related memorial, How It Is. I've been to the Kabbalah Center in LA. I've studied Kabbalah with my friend Caleb from Lebanon. And you know what's a beautiful and essential part of Jewish wisdom? Prohibition on excessive grieving. And if we could ever move on as a community from the horrors of the 20th century, maybe we could begin to make a better world in this century. And with this incredible sadness of this scandal, of this emergence of right-wing networks existing vibrantly on Twitter, the Twitter platform is allowing extreme free speech for neo-Nazism. Pour your outrage on that if you want to help. Like, don't be a part of the problem by. But I think many people are good intentioned, and there's a diversity of tactics, including my satyagraha, my nonviolence, my veganism. That is a tactic. I don't believe in violence to anyone or anything, any human, and that will always be fundamentally who I am. accept that so much outrage occurs for things like child sexual abuse. I think there is a point in my heart where I understand the need for justice. The House of Justice in Los Angeles, Bet Zedek, helped and assisted Holocaust survivors obtain reparations for what they had suffered. And they helped me with a bad landlord. And I love the Jewish commitment and adherence to healing the world. As retired Multnomah Commissioner Kogan described it as the tikkun olam, the duty inherent in the Jewish population to heal the world. To fight for social justice. Yeah. Shalom.